Today I'm recording this journal earlier on, and immediately following recording it, I'm going to cook myself some food, and I already even drew the thumbnail. I just sat down and had a good old time drawing ahead of time. There's nothing saying that I have to draw it afterwards. I usually just do out of, it's just been the habit. But today I decided to go ahead with it ahead of time, with just sitting down and drawing, because I felt like drawing, but at the same time I was like, I don't really want to record, but I want to draw, so I just drew. Nice simple doodle. So that's out of the way now, and now I'm recording. And just to get some stuff out of the way from the other person, I wanna record this because today was the last of my 3 work days. Now I got all week to do my thing here. Hopefully get that remote job. That seems to be moving forward. And just want to point out some things. The other person has always taken issue with locking the front door. Always. For just like since we moved into this place, the other person has always been stressed about locking the front door for some reason, and or locking any door really, but we only have the one door, but always been stressed out about that. Will start making up like all kinds of things, like you have all this fear in your heart, you're paranoid, nothing is going to happen. Not that I ever thought anything was going to happen, but again, the other person is the kind of person who puts words in other people's mouths. So the other person was like, we're called to have no fear, and all this anxiety in your heart, just let it out, just starts putting words in the other person's mouths, describing motivations to them. And to me, it's just, basic safety. Lock the door to your house, And the thing is that where I live, there have been dangerous people who have come through. So, basic safety regardless. I feel much safer with the front door locked. Not a matter of anxiety or fear. It's just basic, I don't have to worry about that. Having an unlocked door. Unlocked door means, someone else could potentially open it, or it could open on its own, or, a locked door is one less thing to think about. Not that I believe there's any dangerous person lurking around, or that I'm scared someone's gonna barge in, but it is one less thing to think about, and it is basic safety, just locking the front door. It sticks in my mind more when it's not locked. So, I ever since the other person walked out and left, I have been locking the front door for, just basic safety stuff. And, yeah. And the other person would always make up stuff. Well, now, if there's a disaster, our house sets on fire, then so-and-so and so-and-so won't be able to get inside. And so on and so forth. And just starts coming up with all kinds of reasons why I shouldn't lock the door. If it's not behavioral or disorder-related reasons that they can come up with. That I have paranoia, fear, anxiety, stressed out, sometimes just going to ignore all reason or good reasoning or anything like, I've talked about this before, just whatever. If the other person can't come up with a good reason for something, they'll just say, well, just ignore all good reasoning. Just ignore your thoughts and your mind, and start coming up with all kinds of excuses and reasons why to do what they want and all that. I mean, to the point where the other person literally will call you a bad person for wanting to lock your own front door. or we'll come up with all kinds of things. It's very silly. And then, of course, because it was their idea, they then get upset if you don't do it, because then, how could you not go with my idea? Just that. Not that it's a good idea or a bad idea. How could you just not go with what I wanted or my idea? You're not going with how I wanted it. Even after leaving, the other person still expects that, everything goes how they wanted it to go, or what their ideas were, and things like that. Even up to keeping the kittens stuck in their room 90% of the time, or not allowing them to roam freely throughout the place, which they are much happier now ever since. but I wrote it down. It's the other person said, "You're locking the door now, so and so won't be able to get inside." Well, I hope they have the master key. We couldn't get into... I sure hope they don't one day say that we couldn't get into your trailer to turn the water off, so now it's all flooded. But they're probably not smart enough to make the master key. They weren't smart enough to text us the price difference, and yeah, basically, the other person just looks down on it. Just really does look down on whatever, in quotes, respect the other person shows. It's always performative. It's always just in the moment for whatever point they're trying to make. Really, the other person just looks down on everyone in some shape or form, completely and utterly. And actually, that goes into my next thing rather clearly, which is that the other person is really super disrespectful about police and police officers. Just absolutely despises authority figures that they have to listen to or would have to mind, or that they can't control and have, say over them. The other person really just dislikes police because police can't be controlled by them, and they wouldn't be able to be in the say in the situation. It's like a whole thing. Just really despises authority figures for the threat that they represent, and always talks poorly about police officers, no matter what it is. Just like they aren't even human beings, that they're weird mythical monsters. It's always just really something, the way that the other person talks about police officers and just authority figures in general that are outside of their ability to control and would essentially become, in their minds, dominant in any situation. Really just despises anything like that. Yeah. But this morning, the other person despised seeing police officers helping to direct traffic at a church. That's how much it's even seeing police officers being helpful to the community or beloved or treated well, brings out a certain disgust in the other person. Always, all the time. Even seeing them giving back to the community just disgusts them. Any involvement just wishes they would just go away and stop monitoring anything and everything, and would just not be there to see if anyone is committing. Of course, the other person always believes that the police are at fault for when they address, their issues and problems, and knowing the other person, it is entirely just I know how the other person drives and does things, and I already know that whenever the other person complained, these police officers picking on me for no reason, I wasn't even doing anything. They just see my last name and they want to come after me. Just coming up with anything that they can come up with to be like, I don't deserve this. They're just always looking to attack me and make me a victim. And Just playing the whole victim thing every single time. And knowing how the other person is out there, like, no, you probably were swerving heavily. You probably really were in the middle of the road. You have been in the middle of the road many times. I have seen you in the middle of lanes, swerving, doing all kinds of stuff. So, and when the other person, like, is like, I don't even know why. They just come after me for no, and then I'm just like, yeah, in my mind, I already know that's not true. The other person just dislikes police so much and would never admit to doing wrong, especially with a police officer involved, when recounting it to someone else, or, even if I have been there to see it, and still finds a way to blame the authority figure, the police officer, and try to shift all responsibility and blame, and take it all off of them and put it on other things. And it's just like, no, that was definitely you. You were the one who definitely did that. Anyway, that's that. So, let's see. Work today. Work today was interesting. I would say perhaps not as smooth as yesterday. I think, personally, just the natural process of going over 3 days and going in, going out each day, I was a weird combination of, like, more tired today and also more adrenaline filled, if that makes sense. More jumpy in terms of, like, moving around, but more tired. But I think the tired caused the jumpiness, because then I was trying to force myself more to be aware of what was going on so I could keep going. So I didn't feel quite as smooth, if that makes sense. I was thrown off a little today. Something was a little off. And I'm not maybe it was just me being a bit more tired, but by the time I made it to the end, like, I was just like, ready to go. It wasn't even a bad day, but maybe just over the course of the 3 days. You know what? I think another part of it is that I ended up having my lunch a lot later as well. I think there was just, like, a couple of things where today felt a little off. Not that my performance was bad, I would say carried over pretty well from yesterday, but not quite as good. I would say there was a couple places where I was sloppy. Not as sloppy as before, but, not as smooth as yesterday. Yesterday was an especially good day, but, I know it's not going to be the same necessarily every day. Yesterday was exceptional, but I know that that's not going to be necessarily every single day, but there's a baseline of good quality performance, and I do think I met it today. But, yesterday kind of spoiled me. Yesterday I was really in a groove, but, I'm not going to stress out about that too much. I still think I did well today, with, like, a few things that were like, could have been better. Maybe it was just me being tired. Some rest will patch that up next time. Still think I did good, though. I'm rather pleased with how that turned out. Which is why, that is to say, I guess I don't really have much to say. I think the main... you know what? I think I know what it is. Now that I've talked about it a bit more, I think today I felt a bit more in the way, if that makes sense. I felt a bit more in the way. And so I gotta work more on, like, my mobility, moving in and out, my spacing, but I do feel like that was affected by me being kind of tired and not at optimal, just, like, energy, if that makes sense. Just like a tinge more sluggish. Ew. So I gotta work rather than, see, the way I figure it, it's better to work on the baseline training rather than trying to push to lifting maximum weights every time. I gotta work more on my baseline training. What's my quality baseline? I need to work more on that, because I think today I was trying to push it a little too much and overcompensate when I needed to find more of a steady groove to slot into, if that makes sense, and start from the bottom, work my way up. It's like with this drawing thing, drawing one a day, a nice little doodle. Just naturally over the course of practicing, I do feel that my baseline is getting better. My mind, my body, my brain, my hands are picking up things more easily, picking up the different tools, and it allows me to use those tools to create things more efficiently, more quickly. The process becomes more enjoyable, less stress, less guessing about techniques or what to do. And I do feel, that I'm learning the tools, like with the drawing, learning those tools, those shorthands, the different shapes, the boxes, the different things that help keep perspective, less guessing. So my baseline is able to reach more of the process, getting through the process is more of being able to, the process is a lot more stable and functional and capable of growth and experimentation, because I'm not stuck waiting and wandering through all the basic stuff as much. So, there my baseline is increasing, my baseline abilities. Where my top was before, my baseline is inching closer to being able, like, referring to the thumbnails, like, specifically, like, the first thumbnails that I did, some of, what I considered impressive with the thumbnails then, like, I'm able to do much faster now. Much faster with, like, much less effort, because my that training is coming in handy, helping me get to where, helping me more consistently create what I'm looking for and experiment much more consistently and much sooner along as well. And so I feel like having that's what am I thinking? That's sort of what I'm reaching for with this job as well. Not trying to push for super realism, super hyper colors and shading, but more metaphorical. Not trying to constantly push for, like, I'm running this entire business, this entire establishment. No, it's like I'm doing my job and I'm running at a speed and an energy that is effective, and just like getting more practice. So I think today I kind of made the mistake of trying to push too much into something that was a groove before. It was just kind of the natural result, but I need to improve my baseline for when that energy is out of whack, the habit, baseline tools, things like that. The theory, or another example, sort of like music theory, Music theory helps you to more consistently find and create what you were imagining or looking for, Now, there is a beauty to experimentation, but, learning the theory, learning the techniques doesn't take that away. What it does what it does is that it clears away the clutter of having to, wade through all the basic tools you don't know what to do with, and it gets you much quicker into putting down more of what you were imagining in your head from your imagination, but then also empowering you to experiment more. Your baseline is higher, so now your experimentation is also higher. If that makes sense. And it sort of like shuffles your expectations a bit. It's a tricky thing, because then you don't want to go too high and then just create the same problem but at a slightly different scale. But I feel like that's pretty much what I'm referring to, is creating a better baseline and allowing for more natural growth and experimentation as time goes on, rather than trying to force it. Yeah. Now, is there anything else? Well, I'm back here, and I was thinking after I finished this recording about in that group I was talking about streaming, making music, even if it's not super fantastic music, just giving it a try. I've been wondering about that, and I think I'm gonna go for it. And yeah, one thing I've been wanting to do as well is I actually own the complete collection of Calvin and Hobbes. It's that one that's orange and black with the little picture of Calvin and Hobbes dancing on the cover, and I barely even dove into it, even though I really like Calvin and Hobbes. And it's sitting right next to my bed. I could be reading it at any moment, so I've been thinking about just sitting down, tilting it over, popping out one of the things, and just, reading some Calvin and Hobbes. So, bit of a non sequitur, but yeah, that's what I've been thinking about with that. Trying to think, is there anything else to talk about right now? I'm going to cook for myself. I'm going to make myself a steak with onion. Oh, yes. Actually, no, I won't talk about that. I'll keep that to myself. But, with onion, Brussels sprouts, red pepper, salt, butter, kosher salt. Finished that spaghetti squash a while ago. It was pretty good. Not as good as the one I had that someone else made once, but I'll get better at that. If I ever get another one, I'll get better at it. But let me think. Is there really anything else? No, not really. Just still set on the work path that I set out for myself, the study path, the get the car path, no matter the pressure from the other person, just sticking to my plan, trying to get things through, working on things, and yeah. So I think that's it for today's journal. See you tomorrow.